This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
For the first time since July 27th, the Mets win back-to-back baseball games. They finish up a series win over the Seattle Mariners, and perhaps the good vibes are back. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I am your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. Good to be back. Yeah, I got a little bit of a sunburn going, but good to be back with you here on the Mets Postcast. I was a little worried that after the win yesterday that I would return to the Postcast and it would be a Mets loss, and we would have to answer the question of whether or not this is on me, this is my fault. But the Mets respond in a big way. They pick up a series win. Pitching looks solid. Perhaps Ryan Helsley is back. Baby Mets contributing early and often in this game. And more importantly, perhaps the Mets have built themselves some momentum. And that's where we'll kick off tonight's Postcast.
This is what you'll be talking about.
The Little League Classic in Williamsport, PA. And before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the baseball game itself, just what a cool place to have a baseball game, to have something like this, to have just baseball in a different place than we're all expecting it, right? I think we can all kind of take for granted watching this team or watching baseball in general every single day and having these sort of vanilla backdrops that we get used to throughout the course of the season. And we didn't. We had a very unique, very cool atmosphere tonight in Williamsport, a very small crowd, all of those Little League teams there to watch the Mets and Mariners play. The teams were hanging out with them earlier on in the day. Everything felt closer. Everything sounded different. So just a tip of the cap to Major League Baseball, because these events that they put on throughout the course of the season continue to create these really cool atmospheres. And you can tell how popular baseball is among the youth. They were having a blast tonight watching this game between these two teams, getting excited about the Soto Shuffle. And he gave the fans, gave the kids what they were there for. So before we get into the baseball, I did want to at least touch on just what a cool, unique vibe it was, and just a thing that Major League Baseball continues to do here. This isn't the first one. They've been doing this for a long time, but Mets playing in it, got a chance to sit down and watch it, and boy, it was a good time. It was also a good time for the New York Mets, taking care of business, winning a series, winning 7-3. And perhaps, I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but it's the first time since the end of July that we're talking about a Mets team that won 2 games in a row, and they did so against a really solid, really good Seattle Mariners team who has the pitching that the Mets are striving to get. It's a good series to win. It's a nice series to have in your back pocket, and it builds some momentum. Maybe it's just a little bit. It's not a lot of momentum. This team's going to have a day off tomorrow. They're going to go into Washington, and they're going to have to show us that this is more than just a 2-game blip. But boy, these 2 games make you feel a little bit better, because for the last 2 days, feels like you got enough from your starters. Feels like mostly your bullpen is settling down. We'll talk about Ryan Helsley here in a little bit. And you got some offense. You got 7 runs in this game tonight, including a big insurance home run from Mark Vientos. So just felt like everything is starting to click. What have we been asking for? Hey, could you put it all together for a couple of games? At first, we were asking, could you put it together for 1 game? Could we see the pitching, the starting pitching? Could we see the offense? Could we see the bullpen? You can say that Saturday, Nolan McLean pitching as well as he did, offense doing just enough. The bullpen, Edwin Diaz slamming the door with a 6-out save, was the start. Great, you did that. Now we want to see the follow-up. The Mets followed that up tonight, and it all got started with Clay Holmes, who I definitely want to talk about here today, because he goes 5 innings, allows the 5 hits, the 1 earned run, the 1 walk, the 4 strikeouts. And look, it's maybe an unpopular opinion, but I'm just going to share how I feel about this. That's Clay Holmes' ceiling. That's who he is as a pitcher, at least this iteration this year, in year 1 of taking a guy who had never thrown more than 70 innings and was a closer into a starter who hasn't missed a turn through the rotation yet this season. Tonight was start number 25 for Clay Holmes. He has posted Every time the Mets have needed him to take the ball, have they given him an extra day off here and there, right? Coming out of Colorado, they wanted to give him a little extra time. But this is a dude that is posted for this ball club more often than I think any of us anticipated. It's okay to say what we saw tonight is the ceiling for Clay Holmes as a starter. If on nights when Clay Holmes is pitching, if this is the outing that we're going to get, I don't think we can complain. I don't think this is the type of start that we nitpick and say, oh, you didn't give the Mets length. Oh, didn't take the ball into the 6th or 7th inning. This is who Clay Holmes is as a pitcher here in year one of this process that this team is going through. Year two, perhaps this should not be the ceiling for Clay Holmes. By year three, certainly should not be the ceiling for Clay Holmes. But for a guy who has more than doubled his innings total from his year last year, his career high, I think, is around 70, so we got to get to 140 for him to be at that magic number of doubling his innings from last year. You can't ask for any more than what Clay Holmes did for you tonight. So this is the new frame of reference that I will be using for a Clay Holmes start. He gets you 5 innings. He allows 1 or 2 runs. That is the ceiling for Clay Holmes. That's a good start. That is him doing his job as the starter for this rotation. And so maybe you agree or disagree, but that's the framework that I will be using for Clay Holmes starts the rest of this way. I don't think it is fair to say that he's the guy that's got to give the Mets 6 plus 7 innings. He battled tonight. Had to work around a walk, gave up some hits, but battled, kept the Mets in the ball game, gave them a chance. They supported him with those 3 runs in the second. He got out to an early lead, and he did his job. And that's the Clay Holmes that if we get every single time out where he's giving you 5 and he's allowing 1 or 2 runs, job well done. I'm okay with going to the bullpen after that. It's the other guys. It's the Kodai Sengas. It's the Sean Manayas. It's the David Petersons. It's those guys that have to go deep into the game because they've got the longer resumes. They've got the longer track record of doing that. You see it there on the sidebar, the return of the swag. We'll try to answer that question. A good outing from Ryan Helsley. The turning point in this game, kind of related to Mark Vientos, if you know where I'm going. And yes, we need to talk about Francisco Alvarez leaving this game with an injury. Although I'll wait to see for some post-game comments, but him staying in the game did at least make me feel a little bit comfortable with where things were at. We'll get to all of that and your thoughts, obviously, here on the other side. Prize Picks, you're going to want to download the Prize Picks app today. You got to use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. This episode brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason, it's already heating up. We've got only 1 more week to go. College football, it's not far behind. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks, running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. How about the flex play option? Total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you double your money. Prize Picks, simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. August 26th, officially, FanDuel Futures Day. Mark it on your calendars. A brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP shot, you're eyeing that long shot division winner, you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Perhaps you want to parlay the New York teams to win their divisions as some dark horses. August 26th, Futures Day is the day for you. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Back here on the Mets Postcast, Locked On Mets YouTube channel, the Locked On Mets podcast feed. Chris Schubert here with you, recapping a 7-3 win for the Mets. We will talk about Mark Vientos here in a little bit. Henry asks thoughts on why Mendoza chose to use Helsley in the 8th and Rogers in the 9th. Why not vice versa and let Helsley close since he's more used to it? And I think a couple of reasons. Obviously, Edwin Diaz not available because of the multi-out save the multi-inning save, I should say, the day previously. And let's face it, when this super bullpen, it's kind of unfair to call them that because they haven't performed to that level, but that's where they want to get to. When you have this super bullpen ready and firing on all cylinders, Edwin Diaz is your ninth inning guy, and Ryan Helsley is going to be the eighth inning guy. Now, I said the last time you and I got here on these postcasts that Ryan Helsley can't be in high leverage situations. Wouldn't call a 4-run lead in the eighth inning a high leverage, maybe medium to low leverage situation, but it was in the eighth inning. And guess what, Ryan? It's going to have to get comfortable being in that spot. That's where the Mets are going to put him. So I think it was, one, you want to get him into somewhat of a situation with leverage to show that you still have confidence in him. But two, he's got to get comfortable pitching in that eighth inning because that's where the Mets ultimately want to get him back to. And I thought it went perfectly for him because he had that great outing, and that's now the last thing in his mind. It's not the outings before that where he gave up, what was it? I think we said 4 or 5 runs in 4 or 5 outings. I mean, it just was a bad just stretch for him. Now he's got that good outing to build off of. And so I just think because the way the Mets want to set up, because you want to keep him in a leverage situation, that was a leverage spot where you can get him in a little bit on the lower leverage side, obviously with that 4-run cushion, but still an important moment of the game. And you could get Helsley out there and now get him off the mound feeling good about himself because relieving, closing, being a setup man, those high leverage guys that you turn to, 70% confidence, 30% execution. That's not to say that they don't need to execute, but it's that role is very much a mental game, and they need to get Ryan Helsley's mental game back in the picture. Somebody asked, I forget who it was, so sorry that let me scroll up here. I'll give credit where credit is due. Jay is the one who asked, Vientos, is he back or should we wait a few more games? Listen, let's wait a little bit longer before we say Mark Vientos is back. But boy, it feels good to see him take the ball the opposite way. When a guy's pressing, when a guy's struggling and he's going through it, he's pulling off on the ball, right? He's trying to yank it, trying to just force the issue. I'm going to show you my raw skills. I'm just going to pull the ball and crush it. This was laid back. I'm going to go with the pitch. I'm going to take it the opposite way because I am that powerful. I am that strong, and I'm going to make it look easy. That's when you can start to feel like Mark Vientos is feeling comfortable up at the plate. And now he's not just Mark, he's Swaggy V. Those are the types of things that can make you feel like he is coming out here a little bit and he's going to have that breakout for this team. I want to see a little bit more, just like I want to see more from Ryan Helsley before I'm totally comfortable with him back in that 8th inning role. But those two performances, since that's what we're talking about here right now, good base levels for both of those guys here in tonight's game. Just stack it. Just a good day, one after the other. For the next Ryan Helsley outing, just give me another outing like that. Mark Vientos, don't have to hit home run every day, but continue to just drive the ball the other way, attack, and be comfortable. Play to your strengths. Mark Vientos has some great opposite field power. Can he pull the ball? Yes. But they talk about this with Pete all the time. Pete is at his best. He's most comfortable, most locked in, is when he is taking the ball the other way. And then he'll still pull, but that's when you know he's confident. And the same thing goes for Mark. So good to see him take the ball the opposite way tonight. And that's the turning point. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, in a 7-3 game, we can pick early on the second inning with those 3 runs, but I'm going to pick Mark Vientos' home run in the 5th.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
It's 3-1 at that point, right? Clay Holmes had just gotten out of the 5th inning. You turning it over to the bullpen, even though the Mets had won the night before. You're still a little worried. You're still worried about this bullpen. You still have seen the way this team has played as of late. You're kind of expecting it to fall apart, right? It's kind of what we've been comfortable with, used to here over the last 16 games or so. That home run, doubling the lead, doubling the Mets run total, going from 3-1 to 6-1, having that 5-run cushion, you breathe easier. You have that sigh of relief, especially on a night where you know you don't have Edwin Diaz. Makes it easier to try to game plan how the bullpen is going to be put together. And so, yeah, we'll pick that as our turning point. Francisco Alvarez on a double. Looked like he hurt his thumb. At first, it looked like he banged his knee. On the replay, he just slammed his knee into the ground. I thought for sure it was his knee, but they were checking out his hand there. He stayed in the game, at least to finish the inning on the bases. And then Luis Torrens came in for him as a defensive replacement. So I wonder if that was the case of, hey, we've got a lead. We've got a cushion. Let's take it easy here. We've got an off day tomorrow. We can get you into the clubhouse. You can get some ice. You can start doing some whatever work you got to do on it. And off day tomorrow, back in action on Tuesday against Washington. I'll do my quick social media search here while we're doing the postcast to see if Carlos Mendoza has said anything about the game or about Alvarez's injury. And Mendoza says that he's going back to New York to get an MRI on his stump. So we'll get an update on that. I thought it felt more precautionary because he stayed in the game, at least to finish on the base pass. But let's see what the results of the MRI is. And it just would be a huge blow for Francisco to miss any level of time right now with the way that he is hitting the baseball. I mean, since coming back from AAA, that stint down there in Syracuse, he has just been a different player. He has been the player. He's hit his ceiling. He's been the player that we all think he can be. And the Mets can't afford, with the way this offense is feeling like they're turning a corner here a little bit, to lose one of the bats at the center of that. I mean, we mentioned the baby Mets here. They got things started. It was Alvarez in the second. It was Baty and Vientos. They're the ones that jumped out to the 3-0 lead. Vientos hit the home run to make it 6-1. Lindor doubled to add things on there, but it was the baby Mets who got things done for this team early. So you really want his bat in that lineup. You would hate for him to have another roadblock when he's just starting to come back from that stint down in Syracuse and look like the player that we all want him to be. But listen, these moments have been few and far between as of late. We're going to take them. A series win, 2 wins in a row, a series win against a really solid Seattle team who really good pitching, right? You looked really good over the weekend. Now you have a day off. You face a Washington team. This team feels like they have some energy, and we've mentioned it that you're pushing the snowball up the hill or the boulder up the hill. And at some point, when you get to the top of the hill, it's going to roll down the other side. And that is the hot streak. That is a team that does what the Brewers just did, or a team that wins 9 of 10, 10 of 11, goes on that type of run. They got to get that snowball, that boulder up the hill and get it rolling down the other side. Are we at the top of the hill and that momentum is coming? Perhaps a series against Washington, a weaker opponent, you certainly feel like if there is some momentum to carry from the 2 wins here against Seattle over the last 2 days, we'll see it very early on Tuesday, but it could be them still just pushing it up the hill, and we haven't really rolled all the way downhill yet. We are back on Tuesday to break down everything from the opening of the Nationals series down in D.C. It is an off day tomorrow for the Mets, and they will travel for 3 in Washington. For those of you new here on the Mets Postcast, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so that you are notified when we go live. For those of you listening to us in the podcast feed and you do want to join us live, after the Mets game concludes, I push that go live button. We are here on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. You can share your instant thoughts, instant reactions to the Mets game moments after they conclude. That is going to do it for us here. The Mets pick up their 2nd straight win for the first time since July 27th. The Mets have won back-to-back games. Brent, I'll let Brent have the last word here. He says, I hate off days. I think off days during the 16-game stretch where this team was really struggling, I think we enjoyed the off days. Now the team's playing well. We don't want the off days. We'd love for them to just continue playing tomorrow. But that's the way the schedule breaks. They'll have an off day, and they'll be back in action on Tuesday. And we'll be right here to break it all down. In the meantime, have a good one, Mets fans.